What is up, everybody? Welcome to Sales Stories in Real Life, episode 29. I'm your host, Alex Bruski, and this is the show where sellers share their experiences on times that the script was flipped and they were being sold to. Today's guest has me elated. I got on a brand new shirt. We're ready to have a great time. She is an executive LinkedIn personal brand builder and trainer. She leads workshops, does one-on-one coaching, and strategic consulting. All things LinkedIn. Make sure you go find Tara Horstmeyer. Tara, welcome to the show. We have obviously been connected for a while, riffing in the comments together for a while. You are as good of a writer and engager as there is on the platform these days. I am so excited to hear your story. I hear it was a really memorable experience when you bought your house. Why don't you tell us all about it?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Alex. So I'm so excited to talk about this because it was like the perfect storm of everything that really matters to me, all coming to head and living out an incredible buying experience from start to finish, but it didn't start there. And so that's why I always talk about this story as being really one of my favorites, because I think so many of us can relate that really whenever we're making any kind of big decision in life, purchasing decision, it's not going to be just a logical one. It's not going to be, hey, I'm going to go on a website, click on this house, buy it, and then boom. So much of our purchasing decisions, especially mine, are really emotional ones that got into it. So my story begins 7 years ago, actually this month in January here in Atlanta, where I was thinking back to it. I still am a mom, but I had 2 young sons at the time and my husband, and we were in a townhome and the walls were just closing in on us. So 2 rambunctious boys, as you can imagine. And it was just time. It was time to move on, time to move out to the suburbs, get some space. My sanity was going to thank me for it. And so we knew that we were going to start a process, but we hadn't purchased anything for about 10 years until then. So I definitely did my due diligence, found a realtor who I just really loved at the time. Like I liked her, but I didn't really know her as well. And certainly hadn't moved to the process of like, okay, this is going to be a big decision, but we're going to wade into it. So me being a former journalist, which I always love to talk about, I had my skeptical on, I think as so many people do. And as we started the process, what I really loved about her at the time is that she knew all of that about me. She knew that I was going to be somebody who was really going to push back on almost everything, every decision. I'd heard all the horror stories of buying a house, finding all of these problems, money pits. So I came into it not necessarily jaded, but definitely knowing this was going to be a big decision, but it was going to be an emotional one. And so what I really loved about Sarah, her name is Sarah, is that she took all the time in the world to really help me understand what I needed to look at, what I needed to see anytime I went to a home, and that I didn't just like it, but I really understood the ins and outs of the neighborhood, of thinking ahead, things that I was not thinking about, where my kids would not only go to school right then, but looking at where they were going to go to high school, what could potentially be rezoned. So she really took me on a crash course of educating. And one of the biggest, I guess, turning points was we had several offers into a home, ended up landing a home that I just was head over heels in love with, but it fell through. There was a contingency, all of these issues, and I was devastated because you just get wrapped up when you go into a home with your hopes and dreams. You see your kids, you see your family. She had done a great job educating. So at that point, I almost literally pulled the plug and said, you know what, like this process is too stressful. We're just going to stay, right here. We're going to call it quits. I'm not going to do this again. Well, she spent some time, took me out to lunch, talked through all of those issues that I had. Again, it wasn't just about the 4 walls. It really was, Tara, I want you to be in a home, in a place that you can plant roots, that you feel comfortable in. So instead of worrying about this thing that didn't work out, we're going to just say, you know what, there's something even better for you out there, which again, appealing to my mommy emotions, she knew that that was going to be what got me back into the buying process of saying, you know what, we're not just going to give up and say, another day, another time. She really sat and worked with me and understood that yes, it was a logical decision. We needed to move. We had to, but it was going to be an emotional decision. So we moved on to a new neighborhood, But I always say this is what really led me, because at this point I knew her. At this point I liked her. But really what made me trust her implicitly was we landed on another home that I found in the neighborhood. And I was like, I want to go see this. Think this is the home. Walked in, really enjoyed it. We came out of that and she looked me dead in the eyes and said, we can get you a better one than this. And again, I was devastated because I'm like, are you kidding? This is the home. We've been doing this for, at this point, about a month and a half now of seeing, I can't even see how many homes. And I was like, this is the home. This is the home. And she's like, it's not. And then as she pulled back the layers and said, it's on this road, it's in this lot, she said, absolutely not. I'm disqualifying you from making a terrible decision. We could have closed on that immediately. I was so ready to buy that home, but instead she again sat me down and really looked at me and explained the process, explained the things I wasn't seeing in my emotions. So again, it was definitely an emotional decision. But at that point, she knew, Tara, we need to bring logic into play now. Now that I've appealed to your emotions, let's appeal some to data and some logic. So her being able to masterfully blend those two, I said, you know what? Okay, I trust you implicitly. Wherever we land, whatever home, it's going to be the one. And so from there on out, we saw a few more until she honestly was the one when we landed on the home that we're in now. It was like, Tara, this is the home. But by then I knew her, I liked her, I trusted her, and she was right. 7 years later, we are in what I would say is the neighborhood with the best purchasing decision that we have made in our lifetime, because it really is an investment. But not only that, it's everything that we could have wanted and more. It's the exact lot that we could have asked for. We've saved from drainage issues that were in other homes. We don't have a busy street behind us. We're zoned for and fantastic schools for our kids. All of those things that really check the box for me, not just as a buyer, but as a mom, the things that really move the needle are why I can look back and say, not only was this the best decision that we made in a financial sense of buying something that was such a huge investment, but as a mom, I just leaned so much into her expertise that I knew that I was in great hands, not just with this decision, but really with the future of my family. And now we've added a third son here. And so this really has become a place that I look at as being my home and the place that I'm planting roots. But the really cool thing is we still have a relationship to this day. I still refer her, every single person that I can, from the rooftops, even if I hope we never buy another home again. We're going to have to bury me in the backyard. That was such a process. But for me, it was so crucial how she handled the entire process, start to finish. And I just am her biggest fan now, and literally will send anybody I know right to her door to purchase a home, because it was the best experience I ever had.
What a thrill. You're such a good storyteller. I have like goosebumps over here. I'm not even a mom. I don't even have kids. And I'm like seeing the world through a mom's view right now. Oh, I have so many things I want to go over. Okay, let's start from the very beginning. Very, very, very beginning. A lot of things I want to go over, but let's start at the very beginning. You said right away that when you met her, you loved her, right? But the trust wasn't there yet. What did she do to kind of create that love? Like, did it come in from a referral? Like, did you get hit with, kind of one of those realtor advertisements? Did you get called, or like, how did that initial love get there?
So I knew her daughter, so I already had some affinity for the family, because I'm like, gosh, if you're obviously related to Lauren, who I had worked with at the time, then I know I'm gonna naturally love her. And it was more of the spirit that she carried herself. She was very confident. She's been in this industry for a long time. So I knew there was a possibility of trust, but just the way that she cared for me, and it was probably a little bit of that motherly daughter kind of connection that I had with her, and her really understanding. I knew that she understood where I was in my season of life, because she had walked that road before. And so she knew immediately what was going to be important to me.
Love that. Love that. So right away, she comes in the door. She's got that love. The trust isn't necessarily there yet. And here's a big thing, is we've heard this many times, is that we buy based on emotion and we reason with logic. And you very much went through that process in real time here with us. So another thing that obviously really stood out is that you had the pretty upsetting experience of finding the house that you loved, multiple offers, ends up not going through, right? That's kind of crushing. And like you said, I want to pull out and this and that. And she comes in and she takes you out to lunch and she talks some reason into you. But the real standout moment, like you said, was the real turning point, is that you see a house, You say, I'm ready to go. Like you said, could have closed right away. And she says, no, you could do better than this.
Yeah.
This is so against the grain of a natural salesperson because you want to get the deal, right? Like instead of spending another few weeks, another month, another 2 months going and finding more homes, once you said, hey, we want to buy this house, she could have just said, yep, let's put in an offer and let's close in 2 weeks, right? But instead, she had your best interest at heart. And instead of just putting you into the first thing that you would say yes and can close on, she really, really had your best interest in mind and kind of overrode you in a sense and said, no, you could do better than that. What was that experience like for you and your husband, right? To like finally have that moment of like, relief of, hey, we found this one that we like, we could buy it, we can close on it. And then to kind of have the curtain pulled down and basically be overrode by your realtor who's commissioned on you making a purchase saying, no, Tara, you could do better. Sarah and Tara, the dream team. What was that like?
It was risky for her, and that's what I think I absolutely loved is that we could have said, you know what, whatever, we'll go with a different agent or that's it. We're just pulling out of the buying process. It wasn't like we had to move. We were very fortunate in a position of we wanted to move and we knew it was the right time, but there was no, we didn't have to like pull the trigger yesterday. So her laying it on the line and risking us really proved that, what, she does have the best interest in mind. And if this process takes 6 more months, God forbid, longer than that, we're in it with her for the long haul because now we really, really do trust her. And that kind of loyalty and affinity is extremely important to myself and my husband. We are just loyal people. You kind of come in our fold. And like, we don't let go, not in a bad way, but that's just who we are. But it takes a while to get there. And so I know she knew that about us. And so she worked extra hard, whereas other people, maybe they're easy to flip a switch and it's fine and they can move from one house to another. But for us, we knew it was going to be a deeper decision. But once you hit that loyalty, thing with us by proving, hey, you really care about what should matter to us, even if it doesn't in the moment, she could see the future us and say, you know what, this is going to be important. Maybe not to Tara right now with a, 7 and 5-year-old, but absolutely Tara where I am right now with a 14, 10 and 5-year-old or 12 and 5-year-olds now, that this is so important to me now.
I didn't even think about that the first time that I asked you the question is when you said, hey, we want to buy this house. And she said, no, you could have literally just said, to heck with you. I'm going to find another realtor at your firm that'll just close this deal for me. So, wow, what a risk that paid off. And what she's done is she's not collecting a pool of transactions. She's making a team of evangelists, right? You're referring people to her now. If you ever want to buy a house, if you ever want to buy a rental property, whatever, you're going to go to her and you're not even going to think twice about it. I love that. One more thing that I wanted to touch on that I actually thought was really interesting, and this episode hasn't aired yet at the time that we're recording it, but we recently had Jacob Karp on as well, who also purchased a house and had kind of a similar feedback on this, is that you're not just selling the house, right? You're not selling just the rooms and the backyard and the plot and the bedrooms and the bathrooms. Like, you're selling the neighborhood. You're selling your family life, right? You're selling the elementary school, the middle school, the high school. It wasn't just, hey, they got a great elementary school here, Tara, go for it. It was, hey, there's a great high school here when your kids grow up, right? This is a great family neighborhood. She knew that your guys' values aligned to that. What's that experience like, right? When they're not just selling the aesthetic, but they're selling what really matters to you deep in your heart.
Absolutely. So this is why I always say understanding intrinsic motivations are huge. I was lucky enough to work at a nonprofit, and that's why I always say that's where I learned leadership, because I could not dangle a paycheck in front of people who I was leading and expect them to follow suit because they were not getting paid. So understanding that everybody has a motive underneath the motive. And that is where, when you can drive into that and when you can lead, or you can lead them through the buying process with that understanding that every single purchasing decision at its heart still has an intrinsic motivator. If you're trying to sell even a piece of software, understanding, okay, how does this make this the champion look good in their company, or what really matters to them? Will this help them gain a promotion? Will this help them see themselves in a preferred future? And so that's exactly what she was doing. She was selling future Tara in my preferred future, which is not just having a great school, but it's knowing this really matters to me because my preferred future has healthy, well-adjusted children that are thriving in a neighborhood, in a community setting where I can trust that they're safe, they're taken care of, those kind of intrinsic motivation. But not only, like you were saying right now, and it's not about the four walls, it really is about the safety, security, and my preferred future that I really lean into. And so that's something too, as sellers, that we have to do, is that we're not just selling a product or a service, we are selling a preferred future that we want them to be able to picture themselves in right now and say, ooh, I want that, I want to go there. But it's never an extrinsic motivator. It's never the features or the bells and whistles, or hey, this is, got the pool, or it's got the this or that. It's, hey, it's got a pool because now you can have parties and your kids can bond with their friends and they can have experiences. Like, those are the things that matter. And so those are the intrinsic motivations that when we can tie our extrinsic product and service to those, I mean, game over. So.
Tara, that was amazing. We are going to chop that clip up and we are going to spread it like wildfire because you absolutely nailed it, especially with the software example. Everyone can relate to buying a house, but something like selling software is a little bit more niche in the grand scheme of the sales world. But I think you hit the nail on the head perfectly, is that when you tell someone, hey, you're going to see a 40% ROI on this, right? That's not as meaningful as, hey, when this software deployment goes so well, you're going to get that promotion to VP that you always wanted, right? Like, that's really the things that tugs at people's heartstrings. And that's the things that really matter, right? Like, data is cool. Data drives decisions, but emotions arguably drive decisions even more. So that was a perfect clip right there. I mean, you absolutely nailed it. Let's kind of segue into, because we have a lot of B2B sellers that are watching. And obviously that last part is very relatable for them. But what would be the big takeaway that you would give to those folks that are still listening? And we appreciate you if you're still listening. What would be the big takeaway that you would have for our B2B sellers that they can go and implement tomorrow and start getting better at their job immediately?
So I would say treat everything. I mean, I used to say, honestly, like a journalist, but now I really want to say treat your selling process like a realtor, remembering that you're here for the long haul. But really what it is I love it when I feel, okay, be a journalist, ask great questions, listen to answers, but more than that, uncover the story under the story. When I was learning how to do this in school and then in my first role, it really was never taking anybody's first or their first answer as the answer, so, and it's also leaning into a posture of not trying to interrogate, but really trying to investigate. So taking that approach to asking questions, to discovery, to anything that you're doing in there, really with the heart of, I'm trying to help, I want to land on this, but also not taking anybody's kind of first answer as the ultimate answer, but really lean into, okay, well, why is that important to you? Get digging into those story under the story, the intrinsic motivators, the intrinsic factors, but doing that almost like a journalist, again, not like an interrogator, but really like an investigator that matters, that you are going to land with their best interest at heart. I don't think you can go wrong. So really looking at, okay, what's the story here? What am I actually trying to get at in this other person? How can I truly help them? And most likely their first answer isn't going to be the answer. So keep digging, keep going deeper. And then when you nail it, when you see that emotion rise, when you see them perk up or those things, now you know you're really hitting what you can tap into as the real motivator and driver.
That's perfect. Chef's kiss. Amazing. I mean, let me be honest. I was today years old when I realized that you're a former journalist, and that makes so much sense as to why you're such a great writer and you inject so much emotion into your writing. And obviously you're helping a lot of executives build out their LinkedIn brand, learn how to do the things that you're doing on your personal profile. So before we jump, Tara, this has been absolutely incredible. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you have going on the LinkedIn side of the world with your one-on-one coaching, with your workshops and all that good stuff. We're excited to hear about it.
Yeah, so I'm having a lot of fun. A lot of people don't really know this, so you kind of hear it first. But I'm coming more out of, I was spending the last few years as a ghostwriter mainly, but I'm moving out of behind the scenes and getting more to really my heart, which I did lead leadership development as I was, talking about that nonprofit. So leading team workshops, trainings, and then moving into taking those big ideas and helping teams implement those one-on-one through coaching, through their personal profile and their personal brands with content coaching, just helping them establish a public presence that leads to private opportunities on LinkedIn. So doing that in a way that is fun and just makes the most sense for them one-on-one or in a group setting is what I'm doing now.
That's awesome. Tara, you practice what you preach. You are out there making a difference every single day. I'm going to shout out Riley Blaisdell here really quick. I was talking with him privately and he told me, and I agree, he says every time I see a comment from Tara, my heart stops beating because I know that it's going to, I know that it's going to be such a meaningful and thoughtful comment. So you are out there doing the work. You are practicing what you preach. You are a practitioner. If you're an executive, if you're trying to get going on LinkedIn, Tara is the person to go to. She is really, really, really taking things to a next level. Tara, this has been an absolute blast. Learned so much today. We have some amazing content to go out and share with everyone. Thank you so much again for hopping on with us and Sales Stories in Real Life, fam. We will see you next week with another exciting episode. Cheers.